Hello students, in this video we will continue to solve rational equations and the steps are the same. We're going to follow those steps as we do the next examples. So example 4, you have 3 divided by x plus 5 is equal to 2 divided by x minus 3. Again, step 1, identify the denominators. So the denominators are x plus 5 and x minus 3. I'm going to write the denominators as x plus 5 and x minus 3. What is the next step? You have to write the denominators as a product of prime and linear factors. As you see, they are already linear binomials. Both of them are linear binomials. There is no GCF that you can take out from x plus 5 or x minus 3. So you just copy them down, and the least common denominator is the product of these two factors. Now, you do not start to box multiply them and write them as a quadratic equation. The reason being that the whole idea behind the least common denominator is so that you can cancel these denominators x plus 5 and x minus 3. So what is the next step? As you recall, the next step is put the parentheses around the left hand side and the right hand side of the equation. After that, you take your least common denominator and multiply it to the left hand side of the equation and the right hand side of the equation. Now you see there is an x plus 5 present in the denominator here, and the least common denominator definitely has that factor, and x minus 3 present in the denominator here on the right hand side of the equation, and there is an x minus 3 present in the numerator in the least common denominator. So now we're going to take the left hand side and solve it. So you have x plus 5 times x minus 3 times 3 in the numerator. So you're going to write the numerator like that, and then you have only x plus 5 in the denominator. Now you have a common factor in the numerator and the denominator, and you're going to cancel that common factor. So what are you left with? You're left with 3 times x minus 3. So 3 times x minus 3 needs further distribution for simplification. So 3 times x is a 3x, and then 3 times 3 is a 9 with a negative sign in between. So you get your 3x minus 9 as your left hand side. Similarly, the right hand side of the equation, when you simplify it, the right hand side of the equation, x plus 5x minus 3 times 2 in the numerator and x minus 3 in the denominator. So x minus 3 and x minus 3 get cancelled, and you will get your 2 times x plus 5 left, that you're going to distribute to 2x times 2x plus 10, and that is your right hand side, 2x. Okay. Now 3x minus 9 and 2x plus 10 and the equal to sign in between. So now you have a linear equation with variable x on both sides. And as you recall, how do we solve such an equation? We need to bring the variables to one side. How do we do that? You can, for example, try to eliminate the 2x from the right hand side. So use the inverse operation. It's a positive 2x. You will subtract the 2x from both sides. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you do to the other side as well. Sorry. So 2x gets eliminated from the right hand side, and 3 minus 2x becomes a 1x. And then you have on the left hand side negative 9 that you copied down here, and you have 10 left on the right hand side. So you have 1x minus 9 is equal to 10. Again, you have to solve for x. So you get rid of this 9 which is subtracted from it. use the inverse operation again and add 9 to both sides of the equation. Negative 9, positive 9 get cancelled, and 10 plus 9 becomes a 19. So you will get your answer as x equals 19. Okay, let's move on to the next example. The next example is 5 divided by 2x minus 3 divided by 4x square is equal to 3x. Identifying the denominators, 2x, 4x square, and 3x. So my denominators are 2x, 4x square, and 3x. Okay. Just quickly recalling the prime numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and so on. 2 is a prime number and x is a linear factor. Okay, there is no x square or x cube involved. It is a linear factor. So you just copy down your 2 and x. Okay, from this denominator, 4 is not a prime number. So you change it into a product of its prime factors. 2 goes into 4 two times. Both 2 and 2 are prime. So I'm going to write down these 2's here. And then x square is not linear. Change it into its linear factors. X, there are two x's. X square is x times x. Okay. Now the next one, 3 is again, as you see, is a prime number. So 3 is a prime number, just write it down here. And x is a linear factor. So all our denominators now are the product of prime factors and linear factors. Now we have to do our trick of finding the least common denominator. So we're going to start from the first factor here, 2. Is there any 2 present in the next denominator? Yes, there is a 2 present. So we check it off. We don't write it again. And there is no other 2 present. So these two 2's get replaced by 1, 2. Okay. Then the next factor is x. So the next factor is x. I'm going to take this x and see its presence in the other denominators. So you're going to check off these x's. So you don't write these x's 3 times because we are already showing their presence here once. Okay, this presence takes care of all these 3 x's present in the denominator. Okay, next one, this is done, this is done, this 2 is done. Now the next one is this 2. This 2 does not have any other pair anywhere else. You just copy it down. Then you have the next x does not have any other pair, and then you go to the next. So this is taken care of now, this is taken care of, and you go to the next denominator. It has only 3 left, so nothing else is left. You just copy down that 3 over here. Okay, so now you have all the prime factors and linear factors in the least common denominator, and all the pairs are taken care of. So you're going to just multiply. 2 times 2 is 4 times 3 is 12. So you have a 12 here. And there are 2 x's. So x to the power 1 and x to the power 1 make x square, product rule. Okay, so you have a 12x square. So we have the least common denominator now. And you're very well aware of the next step. You're going to put the parentheses around the left hand side of the equation and across the left hand side and across the right hand side. What do you do after that? You multiply both sides with the least common denominator. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, the left hand side, but look at this, there are 2 terms here. So this gets distributed over the first term and over the second term. So step by step, the first term is simplified here on the right hand side and also the second term. Also the same, when you multiply 12x square with 3 by 4x square, that is also simplified. So multiply the numerator with the numerator. 12 times 5 is a 60, and there is an x square. Put in the numerator. What is the denominator? 2x. You put the denominator there. So 60 divided by 2 goes into 60 30 times. So you get your 30 from there. And x square divided by x, quotient rule, x2 divided x square to the power 2 divided by x to the power 1, x2 minus 1, that becomes a x. Okay, so you have a 30x. Similarly, you have 12 times 3, 36. So 36x square divided by 4x square in the denominator. 4 goes into 36 9 times, and x square and x square get cancelled, because you can also see if you use a quotient rule, 2 minus 2 is a 0. So x to the power 0, you know, is a 1. So it is a 9. Similarly, the right hand side. 12x square times 2 divided by 3x. 12 times 2 is a 24, and you get a 24x square divided by 3x. 3 goes into 24 8 times. Again, x square divided by x is equal to x to the power 1, which is x. So you get an 8x. So on the left hand side, you got a 30x. You got a 30x from here, and from the other simplification, you got your 9, and then you have an 8x from the right hand side. So 9 from here, 30x from here. Now again, you have a linear equation with variable on both sides. So what are you going to do? You're going to eliminate the variable from one side, so you can get all the variables on one side of the equation and numbers on the other, so you can solve them. I'm going to eliminate 30x, it's a positive 30. Use the inverse operation, subtract 30 from both sides, subtract 30 from both sides, and you will get, on the left hand side, 30 gets cancelled, and you have 8 minus 30x will give you a negative 22, and you are left with negative 9 over here. So now after that, you know what to do. Negative 22 is multiplied with x, so you're going to use the inverse operation. You will divide negative 22 on both from both sides of the equation, and you will get negative 22. Negative 22 gets cancelled. This is 1 over 1, and negative get cancelled to become positive, and your answer is 9 over 22. Okay, moving on to the next example. Now this is a relatively, you'll see it's a simpler one, because you don't even have to work towards making a least common denominator. There's only one denominator, and that becomes the least common denominator. Next step, put parentheses around both left hand side and right hand side. 7 times 5x divided by 7 minus 7 is equal to 7 times negative 2. Now you're going to distribute your 7 over the first term and the second term. When you do that, you get 7 times 5x by 7. Copy the minus, minus 7 times what? 7 is equal to 7 times negative 2 is a negative 14. This 7 and this 7 get cancelled because they're in numerator and denominator, so that's 1 and 1, and you get a 5x minus 49 is equal to negative 14. Now you can add 49 to both sides. Add 49, you will get your 35 equals 5x, divide by 5, divide by 5, and you will get x equals 7. Okay guys, now it's your turn. Exactly follow the steps and get